I still think about this every year when the air starts getting cold and the leaves turn orange. It's one of those memories that never really fades, no matter how much time passes. This happened to me during the fall when I was around 13 years old, and to this day, I can't fully explain what we experienced. I grew up in a small town where fall felt extra quiet, the kind of place where everything shuts down early and the streets feel empty after sunset. My friends and I loved October, not just because of Halloween, but because it gave us an excuse to stay out later, walk around, and scare ourselves on purpose. There was a park near my house that everyone avoided once fall came around. During the summer, it was full of kids, dogs, and families, but in October, it felt abandoned. The trees around it were thick, and the paths were covered in dead leaves that made it impossible to walk quietly. There was also an old wooden footbridge at the back of the park that crossed a narrow creek. It was harmless during the day, but at night it felt like something straight out of a horror movie. One evening, just after sunset, my friends and I decided to cut through the park on our way home. There were four of us, me, my best friend Ryan, and two others I'll call Alex and Noah. We didn't plan on staying long. We just wanted to take the shortcut and maybe mess around a little before heading home. As soon as we entered the park, everything felt off. The air was colder inside the tree line, and the wind sounded louder, like it was moving through the branches on purpose. We joked around at first, trying to scare each other, but even then, we kept close together. When we reached the footbridge, Ryan suggested we stop for a second. The creek below barely made any noise, which was strange because it had rained earlier that day. Usually, you could hear the water moving. That night, it was almost completely silent. That's when Alex froze. He pointed toward the other end of the bridge and asked, "Do you guys see that?" At first, I thought it was just a shadow, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized it was a person standing at the far end of the bridge, just under the trees. They weren't moving, not shifting their weight, not even turning their head. The weirdest part was their clothes. They were wearing something long and dark, like a coat that went past their knees, even though it wasn't that cold yet. Their head was slightly tilted downward, so we couldn't see their face. We stood there for what felt like forever. No one said anything. I expected them to walk away, or at least react to us, but they didn't. Ryan tried to laugh it off and said it was probably just someone messing with us, but his voice was shaky, and I could tell he didn't believe it. Then the figure took one slow step forward. Just one. The sound of leaves crunching echoed way louder than it should have. That was enough for us. Noah turned around first, and the rest of us followed. We didn't run right away. We walked fast, pretending we weren't scared, but every few seconds I glanced over my shoulder. The figure was still there, only now they were standing at the start of the bridge. We broke into a full sprint. The sound of our footsteps mixed with the leaves, and I swear I could hear something else behind us, not running, just following, calmly. We didn't stop until we were out of the park and back on the main road, under streetlights. When we finally looked back, the entrance to the park was empty. No figure, no movement, just darkness between the trees. We didn't talk much after that. We all went home separately, and I tried to convince myself it was just someone messing around or my imagination filling in the gaps. But later that night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of leaves crunching outside my window. My room was on the second floor. I stayed completely still, listening. The sound stopped, then started again, slower this time, like someone was pacing back and forth. I didn't look out the window. I don't know why, but something in my gut told me not to. The next morning, I told my parents, but they brushed it off, saying it was probably an animal. When I texted my friends, they all said the same thing. They couldn't sleep either. Ryan even said he thought he saw someone standing across the street from his house that night, just under a tree, but when he blinked, they were gone. The park was closed a week later. A sign went up saying it was under maintenance, but no work ever was done. Years have passed, and it's still fenced off. Every fall, when the leaves start to pile up and the nights get quiet, I think about that bridge. I think about how that figure never ran, never spoke, and never needed to chase us. And what scares me the most is knowing that if we hadn't turned around when we did, I don't think it would have stayed at the end of that bridge. This happened during one of the coldest falls I can remember, and it's a story I don't like telling often. Not because it's unbelievable, but because every time I think about it, I get that same tight feeling in my chest. This is one of those moments that made fall stop feeling cozy to me. I was 15 at the time, living in a quiet neighborhood where the houses were spaced far apart and the streets barely had any lighting. Once October hit, it felt like the sun disappeared way too early. By 6:30 p.m., everything outside already looked dead and empty. There was a trail behind my neighborhood that cut through a patch of woods and connected to an old, unused road. During the day, people jogged there and walked their dogs, but at night, no one went near it. Everyone said it was because of wild animals, but deep down, I think people were just scared. One evening, my friend Tyler dared me to walk part of the trail with him. He said he'd heard rumors about someone hanging around there at night and wanted to prove it was fake. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We told our parents we were just walking around the block. We entered the trail just as the sky turned dark purple. The trees blocked most of the streetlight glow, and the path ahead looked like it went straight into blackness. The only sound was leaves crunching under our shoes. About 5 minutes in, Tyler stopped and whispered, "Do you hear that?" At first, I thought it was just the wind, but then I heard it too. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, and not matching our pace. We stopped walking. The footsteps stopped too. Tyler laughed nervously and said we were just psyching ourselves out. We kept moving, faster this time. After a few seconds, the footsteps came back. Same distance behind us, never closer, never farther. I turned around, expecting to see someone jogging or maybe another kid messing with us. There was nothing. No flashlight, no phone screen, no outline of a person, just the trail and the trees. That's when I noticed something else. The footsteps weren't coming from the path anymore. They were coming from the leaves just off the trail, like someone was walking parallel to us, staying hidden in the woods. My heart started pounding so hard I thought Tyler could hear it. Suddenly, we heard a voice. It wasn't loud. It didn't yell. It just calmly said, "Don't run." We froze. The voice sounded close, way too close, but we still couldn't see anyone. Tyler grabbed my sleeve, and without saying a word, we both took off running. The footsteps behind us didn't speed up. That terrified me more than if they had. No matter how fast we ran, the sound stayed steady, like whoever or whatever it was didn't need to hurry. We burst out of the trail and onto the old road, nearly tripping over each other. We didn't stop until we were under a streetlight, gasping for air. When we finally turned around, the trail entrance was empty. No footsteps, no voice, nothing. We ran straight home and didn't talk about it for days. When we finally did, Tyler admitted he heard the voice again after we started running. He said it sounded disappointed, like we'd ruined something. A few weeks later, a missing person poster went up near the trail. It was an older teenager who lived a few blocks away. They never found him. The trail was closed not long after that. Even now, years later, I still think about that voice, about how calm it was, about how it told us not to run, because part of me wonders what would have happened if we had listened.